Lockins and LAN parties, and it's 2023, and we're having that conversation. So that's pretty cool. So before that, we're live at Momentum Youth Conference. So if anybody's listening and they don't know what Momentum Youth Conference is, it's a youth conference, and there's a lot of kids here. There's like, I think I got different numbers, but there's definitely more than 1,600 high school kids here, and like more than 400 churches represented, as you never say. So in that, we're here, we're playing games, and we're putting on a gaming event. And I thought, what better conversation to have than correlating a good old-fashioned Christian lock-in with the long-forgotten LAN party. It's not forgotten to us, but in some areas of the world, it is forgotten. But it's like the episode that no one's asking for, and the one you never thought you needed, but here we are. So we're asking the questions that you're probably asking now, like, what are these things that you're talking about, and do people still do them? And actually, yeah, they do.
Yeah, when I think of lock-in, I think of that $1 Aldi juice and a fellowship hall. Like, I think of the same terminology. I think of that era. When I think of lock-in, it's like early 90s musty church when I think of lock-in. So it doesn't have a great connotation for me, honestly, when I think of the word lock-in. So we're going to try to, maybe we talk about how some of the marketing of that has changed a little bit, or present, because I don't know, you can still call it a lock-in, but that's just, maybe that's where my brain goes when I think of that, right? So, I mean, but there's still a thing, right? These are things that are still happening today. Churches and youth groups of all kinds are putting these things on, right? Is that right?
I think so. And just to back up a bit, like, I think I don't think that at all with lock-in.
You don't think that at all?
Because I didn't grow up in a Christian context, so I think you have a lot more like vivid memories of that than I do. When I think lock-in, I think, why are you talking to me? Because I'm like, I just don't have like a perception of lock-in. I've never done a lock-in before in my life, and like I think they're probably just like a Christian thing that happened. In fact,
why don't we define what it is then? What do you think?
Should.
How would you define it? Because I think that's important, because a prison could be defined as a lock-in. It's just
unwillful lock-in. So what Steve thinks,
I think they're onto something. Yeah, I think they're onto something. Maybe that's exactly why they do it in youth ministry. They need to. Anyway. So I referred to a really good reference, ChatGPT, on this, as most people do in the world, right? But check this out. The history of the I asked the AI. What is the history of lock-in? Is there any Christian like correlation? And it says, in a Christian ministry context, a lock-in refers to an event where members of a church or Christian organization gather and spend an extended period of time together, typically overnight, engaging in various activities such as worship, prayer, fellowship, and teaching. Lock-ins are often organized for youth groups or young adults, but they can also involve participants of all ages. So a lock-in, that's what a lock-in is. You lock people into a space at hopefully at their will to do things that are potentially beneficial for life and ministry.
for what it's worth, fire code demands free egress. So that's what a lock-in actually means, just locking the building and keeping everyone out.
Yes,
coming in. So
if you're here, you can't leave.
It's called a lockout.
Yeah. Lockout.
That's a great point.
That sounds like you lost your password.
That's amazing.
Because I think it's like, in theory, like you're saying, hey, you can't leave the building, but also no one else should be able to enter the building too. So,
well, check this out. Mm-hmm. They apparently lock-ins gained popularity in the 1960s and 70s. Okay. Which sounds really weird because I think of like the hippie times.
And musty.
Mothballs.
See?
Yeah. As a way to provide alternative to secular activities. Wow. So I wonder if it's like we gotta keep our people away. We gotta keep them locked in from the world, and tell them about Jesus for forever. So I don't know. Maybe that was a great idea.
Well, I'm gonna go on record saying I don't like the term lock-in. So
that's fair.
I'll just say it. So.
And I think the culture doesn't, because like we, like Christians, churches, we still do lock-ins, right? So we were just talking about this before we went live, but like we just don't call it lock-in anymore because it sounds terrible. It's like it just, if you think about it, you're like, is this a horror movie? It might be. That's what I think. And so like we were just talking about, even with our church, which all of us here go to the same church. So at Grace Church Medina East campus, our youth group, they did a lock-in. What did you said last May, right? You were there.
No, last May was a Nerf war.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Last fall was the lock-in, which was called In and Out.
In and Out. So, it actually is in the name then.
Yeah.
Lock in and out. It just merged both things. Wow. Anyways, so like, yeah, we just call them different things, right? So, but I think there's something there though, and I think there's something interesting about the lock-in, because what it does is it gives you like concentrated discipleship time with people that you would not otherwise have, right? Yeah. So I think that conceptually, philosophically, like that's a great idea, right? It just don't do it in a creepy way, right? That's where it gets challenging, I think.
Yeah.
But let's cross over to like our context, because that like kind of doesn't have anything to do with us, but maybe it kind of does, because essentially, what is a LAN party?
I'm not going to say that a LAN party is a lock-in. You can't get me to say it, because it is not a lock-in. I mean, like,
dude.
So, but
it's an overnighter.
LAN parties, like we talked about last time, where the focal point was saying, hey, we're building community, but at the same time, we've got a specific several activities that we're going to be doing. We're going to be playing certain games. We're going to be hanging out. We're going to be eating food, which is almost like there's specific activities that you would be doing, right? It's not just a hangout, right? And like being like, hey, we're gonna get to know each other. That does happen, of course, at LAN parties, but it's, yeah, I mean, they are similar in nature in that even when we run our LAN events, what do we do at midnight?
We lock the doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We lock the doors, and that's mostly so that people can feel comfortable that like, hey, like no one can come in, like your gear is safe here. So if you need to crash or whatever until the morning, like you can feel comfortable in that.
So there's a security factor, because we have thousands of dollars worth of machines there.
Yeah.
We have men and women there, so safety and all in that aspect too. So, yeah, and underage people go to our LANs too. So,
yeah, so it's more of a safety thing, honestly. But like there are some things that are similar, but I would argue, I'm like, well, it's just a different crowd maybe. And I don't know that I've ever heard of adults doing a lock-in. Adults do retreats. Youth groups do lock-ins.
See, we just call it something different.
No, but
same idea.
Except you're
same
sleeping
idea.
in a bed because you're 20 years older. So
retreats are over the course of days, not night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So
the length matters. Well, I mean, and you think about, so example of one of the LANs that some of us are going to in Texas coming up here is QuakeCon, and it's at a hotel, so everyone just has hotel rooms there, right?
Yeah.
So and actually to get in there, there's actually tighter security, like it's like airport security to try to get into the room where the games are. So it's kind of like a pain, but even that is just a little bit different. I wouldn't necessarily call it a lock-in because it's kind of open all the time.
Yeah,
so.
Momentum is a lock-in.
I gotta go.
I gotta go.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Honestly, I just love the title Lock-ins and LAN parties, because I think it's so stupid and outrageous, and I'm just like ironically and poking fun at everything by calling it a lock-in. So I don't actually think they're lock-ins, kind of, but I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.